I have the New Orleans Pelicans, and this was a hard one for me. I feel like Herb Jones is, well, you tell me, do you think everybody's on to Herb Jones to the extent you can be on to like a rookie, uh, you know, defense first guy on a small market team? Because I feel like people know.
I would say yes, but I do sometimes feel like when you, and this isn't, I'm not even trying to sound elitist here, but when you're do what we do, we're plugged into a level of NBA Twitter that's different from maybe people who aren't doing what we do, like what they're consuming. Because our friend Adam and the co-host of this podcast tweeted that he would have Herb Jones on first team all rookie, basically. And I don't think that's an egregious thing to say, but he caught so much shit
Yeah.
on Twitter for it. So I think you could still go him. But from my perspective, I've read so many tweets and like even appreciation articles for him. It's like I've been like overstimulated with Herb Jones, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he's not underrated. He's definitely not overrated. I don't think that's a thing for him yet.
Right. So I shied away because I'm in the same silo that you are, where it's like, oh yeah, Herb Jones is going to be on, six all defensive first teams in the next decade. Like it's just a given. And, not on Herb. That's like the Pelicans do that every time he has a great play defensively in the, on home games. So it probably should be him. I went with Valanciunas, I think probably because I had just done Steven Adams, and I was like, you know what? He's like plotting bigs. Nobody appreciates him anymore. And Valanciunas does a lot of the same stuff Adams does. He's kind of right up there with him in terms of box outs and the second chance points he generates, because he's similar in that he's just too strong for the way bigs are sort of constituted physically now in the league. He's just always, unless he's playing Steven Adams or Joel Embiid or Jokic, he's just going to have a physical advantage. And he's a good post player. He just overpowers people, except he's actually a good 3-point shooter. And he doesn't take a lot. And he kind of milks this up fake that he has, this super slow-mo up fake, but it still works sometimes. And he can put it on the deck for a couple dribbles and like make something happen. Not going to go all the way to the basket, but he's capable in that regard. So I think that kind of distinguishes him from the Adams, where you got to rely on knocking people over, screen assists, box outs, like that type of thing. And I think too, it's kind of wild that he's in the top 10 in screen assists. And the Pelicans like don't have a pick and roll guard, or certainly didn't until CJ McCollum got there. And he's not that type of guard. So
a lot better. I don't know if this was just the way they were using him in Portland, but even during the non-Dame stretches, I just feel like he's shown a level of passing that wasn't really there in
Portland. Didn't have an opportunity or wasn't asked to do it, or wasn't the confidence in him. But I think so. To that end, I think McCollum and Valanciunas could, like, if they get some chemistry going, if they can play together enough, I think that's workable. I don't know how much that matters if Zion has the ball again, if that ever happens, but it's nice to have. He's basically the second best player on the team if you're looking at, the advanced alphabet soup numbers. Like Adams, he always has positive differentials basically over the last half decade. And this year it's like a +9 when I last looked. So another big guy. I guess I'm getting a soft spot for them because I like the variety in the league, and as much fun as downsizing and the Raptors approach and what the Clippers are going to be able to do with all these big wings. I think it's still kind of fun if there's just like a monster out there that just is shouldering people around, and Valanciunas is doing it effectively. It's not just like he's just being a brute.
This was a team I'm happy I didn't have to do because I was trying not to pick rookies, and I would have picked a rookie. It would have been Herb Jones or Jose Alvarado, who would be my actual pick. He is 6 foot, and he looks it when he looks like he might be 5'8" when he's running around the court with like some bigger guys. The energy he brings, and like, he can score just enough if he's going to actually take shots. But some of the passes he's able to throw in the pocket, nice bounce passes. He just seems to have like really good chemistry with everyone around him. His defensive energy. Oh my God. There was a play, and I actually brought this up on a podcast I recorded recently where we talked about the Pelicans. It was garbage time against Phoenix, but he's like derailing Bismack Biyombo's roll to the basket. So there's 6 foot Jose Alvarado just like cutting in front of him. And I think he was basically face guarding him down there too. And so he plays with like a freneticness and energy on defense where it's, he might have a career here, even though he's only 6 foot and could technically get torched. I'm not saying Bismack Biyombo is like the barometer for a smaller guard to show that he's a good defender, but doing things like that. So if you're watching the Pelicans and they're giving Jose Alvarado a run, give him a look just on defense, offense, away from the ball, whatever. I think he can he's probably the closest thing to an actual floor general they have right now, just because is that Devontae Graham? Is it McCollum? I think Brandon Ingram actually might be that guy. Traditional point guard style, though, he is way more of a floor general than Devontae Graham, and certainly than the injured Kyra Lewis Jr. I think you also could go with, just based off the reaction to the trade, Larry Nance Jr., where it's like, I know he's been injured a lot, but the Pelicans were panned nationally, at least for the way that they obliterated flexibility, which I don't want to belabor this point because I've said it on the podcast before. We just wrapped up an offseason where we were shitting all over them because they tried to use cap space to get Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry. And now we're going to get mad at them for wasting potential future flexibility to get good players. But Larry Nance Jr. is just really good. And his injuries can overshadow that fact. Also, how bad Portland was this season. But everyone loved that trade when Portland made it at the time. And what's funny about Portland is they made a bunch of those moves where it was like, oh, you liked the Robert Covington trade at the time. It's just that they kept aiming for singles and doubles when they should have went for home runs. But he's just not. It was like when Robert Covington was used as a throw in the Powell deal, basically, or when Danny Green was just sent to Toronto in the Kawhi Leonard deal. And I know that there's like math and money making it work. There are other ways to go about that. I kind of view him in that same vein where it's like, if Zion comes back next year healthy and Larry Nance Jr. is healthy, that's like a front court. Like if you don't want to play Valanciunas or Jackson Hayes alongside Zion for certain stretches, that's a front court. And if you have Herb Jones and Brandon Ingram with the way he's defended this season, and then maybe you just go with CJ McCollum because you don't really need a point guard if you have Zion, CJ. That lineup could do some real damage and is super versatile. So I think Larry Nance Jr. is probably the bigger name that could be underrated. My actual pick would be Jose Alvarado because in terms of this year's, I'll put this in quotes, rookie class, since Alvarado obviously is not technically the rookie, he's the rookie. He just hasn't entered the fold of, wow, look how deep this year's rookies are. He doesn't feel like he's a part of that discourse just yet.
Yeah, I like it. I dig it. I like when the defense first point guard gets a little love. That's good.